Hey everybody, this is Michael Estes. It's time to claim your seat, embrace the narrative that defines triumph. This is a Seat at the Table podcast where dreams are kindled and destinies are crafted. Welcome aboard. Hey, welcome to another episode of a Seat at the Table podcast. It is January, y'all, January 2026, and I have one of my favorite people in the world here. Oh my God, it took me some time to get it, but I got her here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Stacy Ault, and I'm going to read this introduction. So how you doing?
I'm well.
You're doing good?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for showing up and
Finally.
coming. And yes. But you know what, though? We kicking off the year with you.
Let's go.
Isn't that good?
Let's go.
Okay, so on today's episode of A Seat at the Table, we are joined by a powerhouse of vision, purpose, and radical impact. Dr. Stacy Chimimba Ault is not just a scholar, she's a movement. From classrooms to communities, from Sacramento to the global stage, Dr. Stacy has been championing race and gender equity, uplifting Black women and youth, and pioneering a bold new framework called Restful Leadership that is shaking up how we view power, productivity, and purpose. As the founder of the RAGE Project and a beloved coach, professor, author, social impact leader, and so much more, Dr. Stacy is deeply committed to rewriting the narrative from burnout to breakthrough, from trauma to triumph, from exhaustion to liberation. Family, today, we're not just pulling up a chair, we're redefining the table. So let's welcome the brilliant, the bold, the beautiful, rested Stacy Chimimba Ault.
Thank you.
You like that?
I do. I was blushing.
Well, you know what? I had to do it upright to get you here.
You
know,
did that.
So I wanted to make sure that we gave you a proper introduction, and that the people that are going to watch this are knowing that they have someone special sitting at a seat at the table.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's just jump right on into it then, okay? So let me ask you this question right here. I'm going to start out with letting you, if you want to say something right now before we even get started, go ahead and give it to me.
Okay. Well, thank you, of course, for having me. We've talked about it for a long time.
Right.
And we finally made it happen.
Yes.
What you left out of my bio is all of the people that sort of supported me along this journey and pushed me and threatened me and fought me.
Right.
And all of the extra support of which you are one of those people. And
Thank
you left yourself out of my bio. Very humble of you, Michael.
Wow.
And I just want to say thank you before we even get started for all of the opportunities that you've afforded me and all of the support, direction. I don't know if can I cuss on your website?
Yeah.
Cuss on? Ass whoopings. All of the ways that you have helped me become better. I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm humbled to even hear that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. You made my day. Look at that. Wow. Okay, so I'm just going to jump right on into it, okay? So what was the spark that led you into the work of race and gender equity, and what kept the fire burning through the challenges?
Mm-hmm. Well, in my bio, you sort of gave a snapshot of who I am now. Mm-hmm. What you didn't share and what not everybody may know is sort of the journey that got me here, right? And so that was, you mentioned trauma. Mm-hmm. I think of trauma sort of like a backpack or a piece of luggage that I'm dragging around with all of the experiences.
I get that. Yeah.
All of the racism, all of the gender oppression, all of the abuse, all of the trauma, sort of dragged it. From a little English village all the way to Sacramento.
Yeah, people going to be asking about that accent. They're like, where's she from?
It's quite confusing.
Yes.
But I think what sparked RAGE, the Race and Gender Equity Project, the acronym is RAGE, was really my anger and grief and subsequent exhaustion from not only my own lived experience, but the lived experiences of people that I was close to in my young adulthood, people that I served once I entered my career of service, and the 30 years of doing leadership work in Sacramento can piss you off. Right?
Yes, it can. Yes, it can.
And I think RAGE came out of that deep-seated anger, which we know hides pain.
Well, see, that leads to the next question. So can you take us back to a defining moment into your journey as a Black woman navigating academia and activism at the same time?
Yeah.
You're out there starting trouble, huh?
Yeah. No.
Look, good trouble.
Always trouble. I think for me, a pivotal point in my leadership, activism, and academic journey was during, when Sacramento was grieving and mobilizing the loss of Stephon Clark.
Okay, yeah.
And I've always been involved in activism and advocacy my entire career. But that was a pivotal moment for Sacramento in our rethinking leadership.
Right.
Remembering who our leaders always have been and recentering youth and community voice in our leadership work.
Got it.
And I've always done that throughout my 30 years in education spaces or other institutional spaces. But I think that moment in history for Sacramento shifted it on a regional scale.
Made it real, huh?
It made it real, and it made us think differently about, we need all of us in all of these places doing these things with purpose. You mentioned purpose earlier. Right. With purpose and with intention and together in a participatory way.
Got it, yes. So how did your upbringing, right, in the UK, right, how did your upbringing in the UK influence your perspective on race, rest, and liberation?
So I was born in the UK and raised in a small English fishing village. I went to school with 44 children in the entire elementary school. Okay. From kinder to 6th grade. And the grades, of course, are a little bit different, but that was my experience. I was not only the only Black child in the school, I was the only Black child in the village.
Oh, my goodness.
And that experience showed me deeply, was like my first glimpse into the deep inequities and experiences facing people from the African diaspora around the world, right? And I was raised without biological parents in the home for much of my childhood. My dad was a professor. He was a white hippie and definitely raised me in a colorblind
atmosphere.
Yes, colorblind theology, I guess, right? Like we don't see color. Right. We're all the same. We all bleed red blood. And we know that misses the experience, right? Like that erases you. It diminishes your lived experience. And when we operate in a colorblind way, we often center whiteness or we center the dominant culture, right, and erase anyone on the margins. Right. And for me, that was some of the trauma, was having to navigate those spaces and learn how to navigate those spaces and deal with the feelings of being an outsider. And that was exhausting. We talk about code switching. Right, so I'm an excellent code switcher. I learned very, very, very early on how to code switch. Right. And even when I didn't fully have my own voice yet, I still code switched
Code
and
switch,
adapt
right.
to what was
Definitely.
expected of me, right?
Right.
And the exhaustion and the anger inevitably will lead to a crisis.
Right.
And I've had several. We will not have time to talk about all my crises on this show. But during those moments of crisis is a moment of leveling up, a moment of opportunity, and for me, a moment when I found rest.
Okay, so for the audience, explain when you say code switch, what that means.
Code switching is when your native tongue is silenced in a space that prioritizes a different way of being, right?
Got
So,
it.
for example, we often code switch at work. I asked you earlier, can I cuss here?
Yeah.
Because when I'm building my career, I'm likely going to show up in a workplace with a particular language and a particular mannerisms that might be very different to how I operate at home.
Right.
And code switching is often racial code switching, but not necessarily limited to that, right? Like when we've come from maybe a high poverty environment,
Right.
we may think that in order to have upward mobility, I need to act high class, right?
Right.
There's this dude that shows up on my Instagram and he talks about, we can tell if you're a low class or if you're a poor person by the way that you do this, right?
Wow.
And that you have to learn how to fit in by emulating wealth.
Right.
And that is code switching. That's exhausting. It's not sustainable. And it erases your authenticity. Now, it's a strategy that works. When you can do that, you can shapeshift
Right.
to be accepted in different environments. However, it's not sustainable.
Got it. So how did your upbringing in the UK influence your perspective on race,
Yeah.
rest, and liberation?
Well,
how did that?
Yeah. I will say that growing up in the UK, I grew up in a very class-driven hierarchy.
Okay.
And we know that in the U.S., race and class are inextricably linked, right? We know that we've had that racial capitalism, that the exploitation of Black bodies allowed us to build the wealth, right, in the U.S. and in the U.K.
You're talking about the slave movement.
The Atlantic slave trade,
Right.
and then all of the subsequent moments, right,
Okay.
of sharecropping, of Jim Crow, of all of those things. And so while UK didn't have slaves on their soil, they would like to say that we're colorblind, but in reality, it's still the same racial structures that exist. And so that deeply shaped me. There's many folks that will say they didn't really learn race until they came to the U.S. And historically, we know that race is socially constructed. It's made up. Yes, we may look phenotypically different, but that's just the way that you look in the environments that you've adapted to, right? And so the construction of race is unique to the U.S. and has permeated the entire world now, right?
Yes.
And so in the UK, my experiences prepared me to learn how to code switch and prepared me to work really, really hard to get half as far and prepared me to education is your ticket and your key and all of those things that I think aren't very different to here. What I will say is growing up in an all-white environment did also give me a glimpse of both the humanity of people, right? Like my dad chose to raise an African child. And so deep love and love for humanity, right? And the worst of the worst of hatred towards differing kinds of people, like that xenophobia, like the hatred of others. And so being in the UK got me to see both of those things.
Okay. So let's talk about the RAGE project and the social impact of it. What inspired you to create the Race and Gender Equity Project, and what transformation have you seen in the communities that you're serving?
Yeah, so Rage,
Because I've seen some.
of course, was built out of my anger, right? And was
right.
meant to start off as small projects that would advance the well-being of Black women and youth.
Right.
And our mission is to okay, stop.
He can always check.
I know. Our mission is to advance. I said it wrong again. Yes. Collective transportation. Harness. Yes. I've been saying this mission for 10 years.
I know. Well, see, sometimes when you get behind the mic, you got some cameras on you. It's all good. It's all good. So
our mission is to...
I'm going to ask the question again,
yep.
Okay? What inspired you to create the Race and Gender Equity Project, and what transformation have you seen in the communities that you serve?
That's a great question. Well, I already shared about how Rage was really built out of out of our anger, right? At inequity, at the conditions that many of our youth and community members face. And our mission is to harness the power of individual and collective transformation through healing, education, advocacy, and research.
Got it.
And
wow.
so we are deeply rooted in youth and community voice, in advancing youth leadership. We know youth have always been on the forefront of revolution, and we want to make sure that youth are equipped to lead us in the future and now.
Right.
And what that looks like practically are youth-driven, community-driven programming that attends to those 4 areas. So healing, education, advocacy, research, and then I'll throw in economic justice as well, because many of our programs marry entrepreneurship with education. So we provide the education and the spaces where youth and community members can advance their businesses, where young people can learn how to serve their peers, where they can be in charge of systems change efforts throughout the region and ultimately the world, and really provide support for them to fulfill their dreams and visions for the future.
Wow, yes. So what's the boldest outcome the Rage Project has achieved so far, and what's next for Rage?
That's a really difficult question to answer, because sometimes bold things are small glimmers of hope and nuggets of truth.
Well, give us some nuggets.
I'm going to give you some
bring
nuggets.
The nuggets.
Okay. So through a grant through a grant from Sierra Health Foundation, Elevated Youth California, we've been able to put over $300,000 in the hands of youth entrepreneurs who have healing businesses. And so this was a 3-year cohort. We're starting cohort 2, so those applications will be open very soon.
That is awesome.
But those young people were all youth who served their peers in some way. And when we said healing, that might be explicitly healing yourself. So we had a young person with a yoga and a physical fitness business. And so that's like physical healing, right? And spiritual healing. We also had young people that danced, that performed, that had clothing companies. Maybe their businesses were healing their families by creating wealth, or healing their communities by hiring young people to work inside their clothing business and then have the skills to start their own businesses someday. And so those young people touched over 10,000 youth and community members in the Sacramento region.
Wow.
And over 100 of those young people, or 100 youth, received intensive mentoring and support.
Right.
So I feel like that was fire. It started as a vision and turned into a reality. And now we're going to be entering cohort 2 to give, I think, 7 new entrepreneurs this year the opportunity to get an incubator and mentorship and coaching support, some funds to build capacity within their businesses, and then the skills and the tools that they need to maybe work in the schools or maybe advance their visibility. And I think what we gave young people the boldest, was access to our networks.
Yes, and that's very important.
And you've come and spoken to our young people, and that social currency is worth way more than any stipend we could give young people. So that's one example.
Okay.
Do you want more?
No, that's good. Okay. That's good. So how do you ensure your work remains both research based and, keeping the radically human side?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Because research is one of our pillars, we engage in participatory action research. And so we come alongside youth and community members as they are researchers, right? And so oftentimes as a professor, research is I'm going to go to the university and I'm going to create this research project, and then I'm going to give you a survey and you're going to speak to me, or I'm going to create an interview. We use participatory action research, which is knowledge is created by those with whom we're conducting research. So rather than I'm the researcher coming to interview you, our young people will interview each other. So they'll hold listening sessions. They'll hold focus groups. I'm going to sneak in another bold move.
Go for it.
We did a year-long youth participatory action research project with the Sacramento County Office of Education, where our young people held focus groups around the county to explore the educational experiences of Black youth, so the educational experiences of their peers. And then their findings were shared in a participatory, collaborative way with the County Office of Education. And it resulted in a report that I will send you the link to.
Please.
And a resolution that the Sacramento County Office of Education passed, Resolution 2507, that is the Black Student Success Resolution that commits to a countywide effort to improve educational outcomes for Black students in 2025.
Wow.
Wow. Completely amazing. And that work continues because the resolution is only a piece of paper.
Right.
And so how that's implemented in different districts is phenomenal, and also needs to continue to be an iterative research project, right?
There you go.
So, for example, some districts have Black Student Success Initiatives. Sacramento City Unified School District was working on a Black History class as an elective as part of their efforts. And so the county office is sort of the umbrella that can provide the training and technical assistance and support to the districts. But ultimately, we hope that each district will prioritize students that have the widest disparities, which we know in many ways are Black students, not because Black students aren't brilliant, but because Black students aren't always afforded. The educational system wasn't created to support them. Right.
Well, I can piggyback off of that because when I was in 10th grade, which was a long time ago, I took an elective Black History class. It changed my life. I mean, seriously, it seriously changed my life. And from that point on, I saw the world totally different. Yeah. I understood, and based on what the world offered, living in America, and traveling all over the world, which I have, but I saw the world totally different, and I understand even what's going on right now. I get it.
Tell me more about how that shifted your worldview.
So you're going to interview me?
I mean, I am a coach after all.
Well, before, I was in the 10th grade in the 70s, right? The late 70s, right? So before that time, civics and American history and U.S. history, there was no Black history at all. So we started learning. The teacher, his name was Mr. Turner, right? And Mr. Turner's great grandfather and mother were slaves. So he was teaching from what he knew, right? But the curriculum that was written, basically what it helped us to discover is that, that's where I learned about W.E.B. Du Bois, Crispus Attucks, Atkinson. I mean, just all the different, Booker T. Washington, all of them. I started learning. I'm like, why we don't know anything about these people? It just was mind-boggling to me. And from that point on, I was like locked in.
Yes.
I was locked in, I'm like, we had people that created the elevator. We had people that created the internet. We have people that created all these different things, right? And even today, we have a Black woman that created GPS. People don't even know that. So it just awakened me so much to a point where it caused me to have an affinity for African, my ancestors, right? And from that point on, I've always had an affinity for Africans, and I've always operated in an African community.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, definitely. So, and it was life-changing.
One of the things that we offer at the Rage space, we have a space on 24th and Florin in the African Marketplace in Florin Square.
Right.
And one of the things we have in the Rage space is a library of Black history books, of critical race theory books, of books that uplift African communities. And so any young person or any community member that's interested in learning more about Black history can find some of the books possibly at the Rage space, because we have seen the same power that even your body shifted, right? Like you even got excited.
I get excited. Right? No, I mean, it even still today, to this day, it's like, when I'm around African communities, because I'm around a lot of African communities, and when I am around African communities, I even go to an African church.
Yeah.
And when I'm around African communities, it's like I'm at home.
Yeah.
I feel it. I know that, I don't know if I'm from Nigeria, Kenya. Yeah. I don't care, right?
Yeah.
Because it's all the same to me. It's like, you guys got something that that I don't have and I'll never have. And that's, your culture, where you came from. We can only guess. We can only guess, but do we really know where we came from? We can do all the ancestry, this, that, and other, but
so can I tell you a story?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, we're off track.
I know, big time, but it's okay.
So I have a doctoral degree, and I shared that I was raised without biological parents in the home.
Right.
So I knew the name of my father at a very young age, and Peter Chimimba. And I didn't ever imagine that I would meet him. And I went through extreme trauma that I haven't shared the details, but I kind of shared a little bit of my journey. And moved to the U.S. at 16, had my first baby girl at 17, and dropped out of high school. And I worked in a Mexican restaurant, making enough money for diapers and gas, and I wasn't going to school, and I did that for about a year, and then I was like, okay, this ain't gonna work, because this may be expensive, and I'm going to pursue my educational career so that I can provide for my daughter. And so when I got my doctoral degree, which I went back to school at 42, so I was grown.
Right.
When I got my doctoral degree, it blew my own mind that I came from being a high school dropout to
now that's amazing.
To getting a doctorate.
That is amazing.
But the story that I want to share is not that. Is that on my mom's side, people didn't go to college, even my siblings. people didn't go to college. My sister has a couple years of college, but people
Wow.
didn't have bachelor's degrees or master's degrees or doctoral degrees. When I met my father in 2010, 2011, I learned that my grandmother had 9 children and everyone has an advanced degree.
Wow.
And so my dad is a dentist. I have uncles that are professors and lawyers and all of these amazing careers. And so when you say we don't know, we know. We may not know where we're from in terms of the country. That let me also state that you mentioned sort of Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Senegal. Mm-hmm. Those are European-made countries.
Right.
Right? Like those were made by the West. They weren't. Yes. We're not from countries ancestrally, right? In that same way.
Got it.
And so I just encourage all of us listening that we may not, I was as blessed enough to meet my father, and my father's Malawian, and I knew that as a very young child. I knew that. And so I'd been studying Malawi. While you were studying Black history, I was studying African history, right? Like I wanted to know everything I needed I could learn about Malawi. And how did my little ass get to USF in a doctoral program? Probably my grandmother's prayers.
There you go.
And I don't even know if she was praying for me or if she was praying for her children's children.
Right.
Right? And so the same prayers that my grandmother prayed, not knowing that I even existed, your great grandmothers were praying, right? And so we know. We may not know.
Yeah, we know, but we just don't know, And I used to get, I used to get a little angry behind it because I would see all these other nationalities of people that knew their tongue. And see, my biggest thing was I want to know my tongue, right? Because I've always had an affinity for the African race. It didn't matter to me where they were from. If they were from Africa, it was like, that's my cousin, that's my brother, or whatever, right? But it's crazy because I often used to get angry because I was in the military. I was in the military 20 years, and I was all around the world, and I went to Africa like 5 or 6 times, and it's just crazy, when you're there and you see people that look like you, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow. Amazing. Amazing. So next question. And let's bring it back around. We're going to bring it back around. How can business owners, CEOs, and change agents implement restful leadership in their daily operation?
Yeah, so we didn't talk much about restful leadership yet. I talked about exhaustion, but I didn't talk about rest. Mm-hmm. And so in the midst of my 30-year career.
Well, hold up. What is restful leadership?
Yes.
Let's go there.
So in the midst of my 30-year career, I was working at Sacramento State as a professor. And it was in 2021. And so we were dealing with sort of the pandemic. We were dealing with America's Great Racial Awakening. Right. We were dealing with all of the trauma of that era. And during that time, my best friend died.
Oh, wow.
And I realized at that moment that I had to make the decision to live.
That's deep.
And grief and death sometimes does that, right? It puts your humanity in the spotlight and calls you to think about who are you in this world. And for me, this was also a time that I was dealing with significant physical and mental health challenges. I was in the throes of perimenopause. That's a whole nother podcast. But I was in the throes of perimenopause. You may not want to talk about that. And literally couldn't move. Literally could not get out of the bed for weeks. And I either held class virtually or no, I was holding class virtually at that time. And I'd open up the classroom and we'd support each other and we'd cry because I wasn't the only one experiencing loss.
Right.
And I was teaching social work, so it became this community, this squad of care. And so Restful Leadership is an equity-driven, trauma-informed, human-centered, and sustainable approach to being well at work, rooted in liberatory leadership and rest. And so Restful Leadership is not just a framework that helps us be well at work. It was my attempt to put the pieces back together of myself in the midst of that loss and in the midst of that grief, and find a more restful way of life so the next person dying wasn't me.
Yeah. Well, you often talk about creating a life that you don't have to escape from. What does that particularly look like right there? You've said that a couple of times to me.
The tagline, is it called a tagline? The tagline is...
You made it into a tagline.
Creating a life I don't have to escape from while planning our collective escape.
Okay. That makes sense.
Because Audre Lorde says, I can't be free until all women are free. Right? Like, I can't be free until all of us are free. And so all humanity is free. The planet is free, right? As long as someone is or something is in bondage, we cannot be fully free. And so creating a life I don't have to escape from. When I first took an early retirement from Sac State to save my life, I took 90 days off, and I'm a coach. So I coached myself through those 90 days. I documented all of the rest practices that I did in those 90 days, and I learned how to engage with the different types of rest. There are 8 different types of rest, so I practiced the different types of rest. And I really determined to build a life where I can really live, right? I said when Linda died, gave me permission to live. But what I found after that 90 days was I went back to work, and within 6 months, I was burnt out again.
Oh, wow.
So it was partly me, right? And it was the deep inner work and unlearning of all of the ways that we sacrifice self for others, that we prioritize work over self, that we, a lot of my practices during those 90 days were individualized. Because I didn't want to be bothered with humans. I lost my best friend. I don't want to deal with you.
Right.
But what I also needed was squad. And so Restful Leadership is a multi-level, multi-generational approach to leadership work. And we talk about self-care, squad care, and systemic change. And all of those things being an integral part of our rest journey. So yes, there are the individualized practices, the yoga nidra, the meditation, the I wake up slow. My grandbaby, I haven't posted this yet, but I will. My grandbaby described my morning the other day on video and said, because Nani, you make your cup of tea and then you go upstairs and sip tea and stare out the window for at least 4 or 5 hours. And then you come downstairs and you open the curtains and I go, ah! And you say, okay, Miss Vampire. And then you go make your second cup of tea and then you go upstairs and then she's describing like so I
moments,
wake,
right?
She ain't lying. I wake up slowly, right? Those are the individual practices.
Right.
But I had to remember in 2021 when we were all grieving, when we were all struggling, what we longed for was connection.
Right.
So you do self-care. And I've always done self-care. You've known me for many, many years. I've always been the self-care queen.
Always.
And we also have to incorporate squad care. Dr. Melissa Harris Perry says it wasn't self-care that saved her life, it was her squad.
Wow.
And so we know that self-care and community care are deeply tied together.
Right.
And those two things alone, without systemic change, mean we practice these things on the weekend, and then we go back to work to the same environments,
Right.
and we perpetuate that cycle.
Yes.
So a life that we don't have to escape from is a life where those things are dismantled, where those inequities are dismantled, and where I can do work that I love, and it doesn't deplete me. I can travel. I can work from anywhere.
Right.
I can have a community of people that we're deeply tied together in love, but also in liberation work.
Got it.
And we're actively working together to create those conditions for everybody.
Okay. So how has your own relationship with rest evolved since launching the movement? Because I have to track you all the time. Sometimes I'm like, oh, she's in England.
Yeah.
Oh, she's here. Oh, she's there.
I'll be going outside.
I'm like,
the country.
Doc, you back in the country?
So I'm 56 in a few weeks, and I will say that I'm aging backwards.
You know what? With Benjamin Buttons.
But in part because of rest.
Yes.
And rest was the thing that was missing from all of my practices. Because I saw self-care and even squad care as things that I had to do, not as being. And so I think my own rest practices have transformed the way I look, the way I dress, the way I act, the way I love, the way I play. In the African-American community, in the Black community, we play is a bad word.
Right.
We'll say, oh, don't play
with me.
Don't play with me.
Yep.
Oh, you got played.
That's it.
Oh, they're just a player. Right? We weaponize the word play.
Yes.
But I had to relearn. Rest allowed me to relearn joy. It allowed me to relearn play. It allowed me to create workflows that work for me. I'm not unique in that 8 to 10 hours of work, I'm not working at my optimal peak for 8 to 12 hours a day. And I'm not unique in that. None of us are. Right. And so I've learned how to create shorter bursts of work. So, 4 hours, you got a good solid, and I'm going to get some stuff done. Anything beyond that?
Yes.
It's just busy work at this point because I'm not productive anymore.
Right.
And so while those things have, my own relationship with rest has evolved, I feel like other people, I'll get DMs, right? And people are like, Dr. Stace, I took a nap. Or, Dr. Stace, I put on a cute outfit. Look at my outfit of the day, right? And people laugh and be like, girl, why are you doing that? Because it's play, because it's joy, because the things that may be considered frivolous, rest opens up the portal for those things again, right?
So what makes you believe that joy, sleep, and stillness are forms of protest for Black leaders?
Yeah, because hustle culture rewards overwork.
Yes, it does.
And as Black leaders, in Black leadership, whether you're a formal leader or you're leading your family, you will work as hard as you need to change the conditions, right? And so when we take a lunch, when we say no, when we set boundaries, when we sometimes even work average, because for many of us, especially the Black leaders that I know, their average is most people's like 12-hour days, right? Or highest peak performance. And so when we rest, when we center joy, when we're still, that is reclaiming our time. That is recentering our divine right to rest. Dr. Tricia Hersey talks about rest is your divine right. And when you're doing those things that aren't afforded to you, then or aren't that you're not privileged enough to access, when you do those anyway, that's a form of protest. That's a reparations.
Right.
There's a book that I loved. It's called How to Be Idle. I don't remember who the author is, but it's not a Black author. And this dude literally lays out how to rest. And so he talks about skiving. And when I was a kid, we used to skive off school. And I think you probably call it ditch school. So we used to ditch school, skive school, bunk off. You're bunking off. Yeah, I'm going to the chippy. Right. Like we used to bunk off school. And so in this book, again, written not for Black folks, he talks about skiving as like you get the best rest, like idleness, skive. And so when I take a me day and skive off work for the day, there's an extra little bit of spice in my rest because I'm supposed to be doing something else.
You got a pep in your step.
I got a little extra pep in my step. Yeah. Sometimes the protest is, you know how much I love my bed. And so sometimes the protest is I'm going to be in my bed all day. And I love it here. And that's a gift to myself. And we can all do those little small things, right?
Right. Wow. That's amazing. I like that though. But I used to skive when I was in.
I used to skive, go down the chippy, probably hustle up some money so we could get a bag of chips to share. It would be in the newspaper with salt and vinegar on top, and we drink whatever we were able to get from our friends whose parents owned a liquor store. We would eat the chips in the newspaper that was soggy from the vinegar, and we would smoke cigarettes. Okay. That was our skiving. I've come a long way. I don't partake in that way anymore. But that's the English version of ditching.
Right. So what does radical healing look like in communities burdened by intergenerational trauma?
I think we've described them in the multi-leveled, multi-generational framework, right? They have to be individualized healing that we all have a responsibility to engage in. I have 6 children, 5 girls and a boy, and I've
you have twins too, huh?
I have twins, yes, and I was a little kid trying to be a parent, and I didn't get those things right. And so there was some healing that I had to do from my own trauma so that I could parent my children. And my youngest is 21, and she might have got the best of me.
You know what? That's true, because my youngest got the best of me. You know, so it happens.
And even then, there was some trauma and some.
I was a single parent, so raising kids and didn't know what I was doing.
Same.
You know, so I get it. And my youngest got the best.
And because as you matured, you engaged deeper. I'm imagining in your healing, right? I'm reading a book now about Erica Huggins, who was a member of the Black Panther Party, and it's called It's about her spiritual wellness journey. And so it describes that even in 1969, 1970, she was engaging in the individual healing of her trauma.
Right.
And she was also engaging in the collective healing, which is the squad care. Erica talks about the Sister Love Collective in Niantic Prison, and they did hair, which, when I talked about our entrepreneurs, we have an entrepreneur that does hair. She's now in med school, and she's combining healing and hair.
Wow.
Right? But I bring that up to say, Erica, as a traumatized young person, she was in her early 20s, right? As a traumatized young people, held space for others.
Right.
So in our communities, sometimes the healing is individualized. Many times it's collective.
Wow.
And it also has to be systemic, because the systemic healing is what changes conditions. The generational wealth that you talked about earlier in our, maybe even before we started recording, right? Is a form of healing, intergenerational healing.
Right.
So I think it's important. We say self-care, squad care, systems change. So it's very easy to remember. And it guides everything that I do. It guides the way that we operate at Rage. It guides Restful Leadership Global. It guides how I enter in community, because I'm constantly thinking about, okay, what do I need to do? How do I show up? What do we need collectively? And then what do we need systemically to ensure that these spaces can continue to flourish? Okay,
so as a professor, how did you make the leap from academia to leading 2 powerful ventures? 2.
Well,
two that's really broken down into a whole bunch of other ones, but
yes,
two main,
the Rage Project and Restful Leadership Global.
Leadership. Yeah, how do you 6-7 that?
Michael, no, don't ever do that again. So I say that a lot of my work has been in community, right, and with young people. And so there's a term called push out. And so there's oftentimes we talk about students not dropping out of school, but being pushed out.
Got it.
And so I think that when I left academia, there was a little bit of dropping. There was a little bit of pushing. And then there was a lot of like slumping and sort of roll. You know when you like roll out of the bed? I feel like I rolled into an early retirement because I was too exhausted to do anything else. And then after my 90 days where I was going to change the world, right? That turned into, years later, we're still changing. We're still changing and even changing my world. I think that I realized that I still got to eat.
Right.
And my children still have to eat.
Right.
One of the reasons why many of our young people have been unemployed is because we haven't owned businesses to hire them.
Right.
Whether that's the children I've birthed, which I do hire, or whether that's children in my community. I'm Mama Stacy.
Yes, exactly.
Right? So I'm hiring my kids.
Right.
And I think that rest has been a pivotal part of that because from rest comes dreaming. And from dreaming comes vision.
Right.
And we know where there's vision, there's provision.
There's provision, yes.
So I think that if I was to name, like, what is the one thing that changed your life and allowed you to operate these businesses, it would be rest. For me, it would be rest.
No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. It's just even the way you broke it down, you're resting, you're dreaming, you're visioning, and then you're manifesting. So definitely that makes a lot of sense. So how has your research on Black women and youth shaped the coaching, leadership, and education spaces that you now influence?
Yeah, I think I sort of.
You kind of talked about it.
I did talk about school push out, right? And there's an amazing book if you're interested in Black women and girls. There's an amazing book called Push Out, literally. Okay. But my dissertation, my doctoral work, was on young women in high school and placing them in the center of knowledge creation through youth participatory action research. And I've always done that. We've worked with young women that have been exploited, in part because of some of my own lived experience, and placed those young women with peer allies to change their conditions and to create change in their communities. So that's always been the flow of my work. Now, I think in terms of how I influence, I'm really interested in, one, advancing the well-being of Black women through Restful Leadership. Right. And so we have a retreat coming up in March, the Restful Leadership Professional Learning Retreat. And this is designed for Black women executives, for social change makers, for women of color in leadership positions, for healers, for practitioners, to be able to engage in the experiential learning of rest. Okay. So that they can return to their communities, their businesses, their institutions, and change the conditions for themselves and others. And so that's one way. Restful Leadership has tons of offerings for Black women. And so they, again, continue to be the driving force between a lot of the work that I do. And education spaces, I'm really interested in community pedagogy. I came from the academy, and I thought that's where education belonged, right? I went and I got a degree, and then I got my dream job, and then I taught people within a classroom, and I thought that was what it was supposed to be. And we know, one, from the pandemic, that things can change overnight, and we lived it as a country, as a world. As a world, yes. And so when that happened, I started drawing back from Paulo Freire, from Gramsci, who always talked about organic scholarship, who talked about community scholars, and we the people have the knowledge. And so we are going to be launching, we'll launch in February for Black History Month, but our first event will be in March. And this will be Pub University.
Oh, wow.
And we're going to call it Rage University, but it will be sort of the reclaiming of education for community. Okay. And so we're finalizing our venue. It will be in Sacramento. When I go to London, Prince of Peckham is a pub in South London, and they have university lecturers. They're partnered with Black History Walks London, and they'll have professors, PhD students, lecturers come to the pub and teach a class for free.
That's cool.
Sharing their wisdom, sharing their knowledge. And so we're going to launch something very similar in Sacramento, where I'll invite my friends. So if you are a professor and you want to teach community in a pub setting of some sort, reach out to me. And then for all your listeners who are just interested in learning, come and participate. And because you'll get a free lecture, right? When someone wants to hire me, that might be a couple of $1,000s for me to do a lecture for you, right? But come to Pub University and my friends are going to sprinkle some knowledge for you in a very accessible and
sewing into the community,
enjoyable way.
Right.
And so that's how, again, Black women, the brilliance of Black people, the brilliance of our community members and our young people continue to shape my journey.
Good. So that segues right into this right here. What do you want for your children and their children to remember about your life's work?
I tell this story about my best friend whom I went to college with. We were having brunch with her son, who's one of my children, and he said, "Auntie, you and my mom are the hardest working women I know." That's the opposite of what I want my legacy to be.
Right.
And for many years, I didn't know that.
Right.
And so now I want my legacy to be, ooh, Mama rested, she played. Where your mama out? She's outside the country. My daughters travel and spend months. One of my daughters is living in London. She took the brave leap to go and do grad school in London. She got her British citizenship and she's staying for the near future. Another one of my daughters has traveled around Europe, Finland, and Portugal, and Poland. And I hope that I give them the legacy of joy, of peace, of healing, of abundance, of travel.
Right.
I want them to live lives that they don't have to escape from.
Okay. Yeah. So what are you most proud or humbled about today that 10 years ago would have felt impossible?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe that I'm leading 2 organizations. Rage turns 10 in on my birthday.
I remember when you launched it.
And I turned the paperwork into the Secretary of State on January 28th. So Rage is an Aquarius, just in case anybody cared. But she turns 10 this month. And 10 years ago, I never imagined that we would be doing the work that we're doing now. I never imagined that we would have been able to pour as many financial resources back into our community. I never imagined that we would have had almost $1 million nonprofit budget. I would have never imagined that I would be leading a for-profit enterprise, Restful Leadership Global. I'm barely giving myself permission to gain wealth. A lot of the work that you and I were doing was around my mindset around abundance and what I deserve and what I deserve to leave my children.
Right.
I would have never imagined that 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I was stuck in the grind, hustle culture. I was working twice as hard to get half as far. I was searching for promotions. I was exhausted. I was surviving. I worked a 40 to 60 hour a week job.
Right.
I had 4 teenagers in my house. I was in school full time in a doctoral program in the city. Who even was that person? Now, if you ask me to do more than 2 things in a day,
Breathe in.
I'm
Yes.
humbled that I've created a life for myself that I loved. I don't even think that I love. I don't even think 10 years ago I imagined myself living this life.
So where do you draw your spiritual or inner strength from the hard days?
Yeah.
Them hard days, you know?
Yeah. Of course, faith.
Mhm,
Right?
of course,
Like
yes.
the spiritual wellness is so important to me. And when the world is on fire, which it is,
That's an understatement.
I have to make sure that my thirst is quenched, right? Like that I'm right. Like if I was, I don't know whether I'm thinking of two metaphors. I'm gonna go with the eye of the storm. Moving from the fire analogy. If the storm is swirling around us, like the eye of the storm is calm.
Right.
And so I have learned, I've been raving, right? I've gotten excited about my life and I've created these things. Does that mean that I'm not faced every single day with interpersonal struggles, with my own grief, with my own trauma, with people close to me struggling,
Right.
with the world being on fire? No, those things haven't changed. I've changed.
Right.
And so I think spiritual wellness and I'll write about this so you can, I'm actually finishing up an article about spiritual wellness
Good.
based on Erica's story. And so you'll be able to read a little bit more about that.
Okay.
But also rest, because when I'm not rested, even if we talked about one day, if I didn't get any sleep last night and I woke up exhausted, and I missed my 4 hours of staring out the window and sipping my tea
Right.
and meditating and journaling and doing my gratitude practice and praying, if I have not done those things and then I'm faced with a crisis, oh, your girl going to be a completely different person than I am now sitting before you. Right? I'm going to be crying, overwhelmed, stressed out.
Anxiety.
High. I battle with anxiety. I battle with depression.
I think most entrepreneurs do.
Really?
Yeah, because I battle with it.
Tell me more.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something that because we're constantly balancing, balancing life, balancing everything, and we feel responsible for everything for everybody, right? As an entrepreneur, even myself, I battle with anxiety to a point where, and sometimes I have to say, you know what? I'm not going to accept this. I don't have to have this feeling that I'm having, because the world is not gonna, if it burns down, it's going to burn down around me. It's not going to burn me. I'm not going to let it. I'm just not going to let it. And then a lot of times it happens even with me when there's not even anything wrong. I know you can relate to that.
I can.
And it's like, what am I doing? It's like, this is not making sense, but it's from that being an entrepreneur and always feeling like you got to go make it happen.
Yes.
You got to go make it happen. That hustle, rising and grinding mentality, right? I don't do it no more. I just decided, I'm like you. I only work 4 hours.
I don't only work 4 hours, but you got 4 hours of good optimal productivity of me.
Straight. Yeah, because I know that after that, I'm it's no good.
Yeah.
I'm no good. I'm no good with it. And I'm just even from coaching, I run my life, it's structural and it's transformative.
Yes.
So because of that, I know what I'm doing tomorrow already.
So I'm laughing because you already know that's the opposite of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what it makes me think of is sort of many times we think if we can get stable, then we won't be anxious. Right. And entrepreneurship, by definition, is going to be unstable.
Right.
Right? Because it's not. I grew up in the era of you go get a state job or a government job, and then you work your whole career, and then you retire. Right.
And then you find out that that's not stable.
And then you find out that that's not stable. It's being dismantled right before our eyes. It makes me think of. and we've talked about this, the 300,000 Black women who were who are out of work, who lost their jobs last year. Black unemployment rate in December was 7.2.
Huh?
Yes, almost 7.5%, which was almost double.
Right.
White
in 1 year.
In 1 year. Yes. And I have the most amazing success stories, testimonies of Black women losing jobs, pivoting, resting, and creating lives that they don't have to escape from. One of my clients lost her job in the beginning of the year. And of course, the first time I met with her after that, as she was processing that information, she was devastated, full of anxiety. What am I going to do? And so we paused and we talked about a rest practice. And I supported her through some templates and some different things as she started her own business. Once she'd rested, she was like, wait, I have skills. These things that I was doing in this job, I can
do for myself.
For others, right? And I can charge them for that.
Right.
She sent me a text, and she'd gotten her first fractional consulting gig, $10,000 a month. So she'd replaced her income.
That's awesome.
She's since gone out of the country, lost 75 pounds, is living her best. She's gorgeous. She's glowing, living her best life. And so all that to say, while we're in the midst of sort of this crisis, and it feels impossible, right? Just like you asked me 10 years ago.
Right.
It felt impossible, but it's possible.
Yes.
And people are doing it. And you can get support. There are people who've done it, and we can support you. And you don't have to do it alone. We can help you find a squad.
Right.
Where you're surrounded with other people moving in the direction of building lives they don't have to escape from as well. Where you're meeting with Coach Michael Estes and getting the financial literacy support that you need to build your business capacity. All of these resources are here.
Right.
And what is it that crisis is also opportunity?
And so that's right.
It's scary, and we're in the middle of the storm. And there's opportunities. And many of us, especially those of us doing racial justice work, have talked for years about dismantling and disrupting.
Wow.
We need to dismantle and rebuild. Well, guess what? It got dismantled.
Yes. So now it's time to rebuild.
Now we get to rebuild.
We have to
rebuild.
Because we have to.
And I don't want to minimize what's happening in the country or minimize the fires, right? I don't want to minimize the pain and the trauma. But I will say that what keeps us grounded, what keeps me grounded is the hope and the joy and the peace and the faith within that.
Okay.
And it may not look like whatever happens, I might get burned, right? I might not come out of it in the way that I've imagined. And guess what? That's part of my journey. And guess what? Someone else is going to get burned at some point, and I'll be able to help them because I've recovered from my burns.
Because you recovered from your burns.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's that, again, self-care, squad care, systemic change.
So final question. We've got there. What's the one message you want every listener of this podcast, especially Black women and youth, to receive from your journey today? What's the message you want for them? If you was to look at the camera and you look directly at that camera and you talking to them, what is that?
I think this is relevant for young people, for Black women, for adults, for anyone actually listening. Pause. Start by stopping, take a breath, and rest a while. Because in that rest space, all the next things will come, right? In that rest space, the dreams and the visions will come. In that rest space, the strength will come.
Right.
I'm not a gym girly, but the gym girlies tell me that you got to have rest days.
Right.
Right? That you're not going to be able to build.
Your muscles have to repair.
Your muscles have to repair.
Right.
And so set it down just for a moment. We don't have to do it all. We deserve to rest.
Right.
And one of the things that we didn't talk about is sort of that tension between, but if not now, then who? Or if not me, then who? If not now, then when? Right? Like we have to do it. Mm-hmm. And yes, we do. And we've been resting for such a time as this.
Right.
And if you haven't been resting, we need you to. Because this is the long game. Change making is going to take decades and potentially centuries, right?
Right.
And we're faced every day with a new trauma, with a new crisis, with a new horrific headline.
Yeah.
Disconnect.
Right.
Because we will do the activism. We have to. And we've been resting for such a time as this.
Yeah, well, they say the only thing that remains constant is change. Yeah. You know, so, and we're definitely going through some changing times right now. And on that note, Dr. Stacy Ault, I just want to take the time out to thank you very much for this great recording of a Seat at the Table podcast. And I know I'm going to have you back. I'm going to have you back. So there you have it. You know, this episode of Seat at the Table podcast is the first in the year 2026, and what a way to start off. Thank you for being with us, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Have a great day.